Okay, awesome. Thank you all. Nice to see you, some of you. We are going to talk about the ShowComposer now? Yes, no, nice to see you all. Some of you that I did not see before in the last session. But now, we swapped rooms just because more people were wanting to come to this one, which is great because we think this ShowComposer is going to be an awesome tool. This is the first time we're putting it out. As you might have heard Alex mention, we had an earlier version of it called the Youth Learner Interface that we had some testing with middle schoolers using it. So we know that the middle schoolers, it worked for them, so hopefully it will work for you guys as well. That being said, this is our first launch of it. I'm sure there will be things that we will want to improve and make better and change for the future. So I certainly, at the end, would welcome some feedback for sure. But otherwise, we will get started and get going. And I'll basically kind of teach you guys how to use it and some of the more basic stuff. And just like in the last session, I would hope that people are asking questions whenever they want to. I will be stopping at certain points to be going around and making sure that everyone is able to do what we're able to do. And I will be switching back and forth between probably showing my slides and me actually using. Okay, so the one part that I don't have in the slides here that I forgot to put in is that in order to use the ShowComposer, we actually have to run OpenSpace. So I did not put in any part of my slides or anything actually run OpenSpace. So that will be a step that we'll have to do, which is run OpenSpace that I forgot to put in as part of this. But I'll just show you real quick what our plan is for this session, what we're gonna go over. So first I'm gonna go over just showing what it looks like. Then we'll make our first page and our first button. Then I'll talk about the show mode versus the edit mode we have. Then we'll talk about how we can customize the buttons themselves. We'll talk about the components and the different types of ones that are available. We'll talk about the grids and the stage and how we lay things out on the page. And then we'll talk about saving and changing shows. And of course, any questions along the way. So that being said, I did say that we had to we have to open OpenSpace. The other thing that we really need to improve inside of the software is to make it actually easier to open this up. And so how do I get to the ShowComposer? We have a button inside of OpenSpace that may or may not work, and we'll actually put it inside of a window in OpenSpace, but what I recommend everybody is to go to a browser and to type this into the browser. And so this is the first step, is how do I get to the ShowComposer? Well, you go to a browser and you type this in. I'm gonna just flash it away for a second to say this is what it should look like when you get there. But basically the first step is to just go to a web browser and type this in. Oh yes, the question was when they start OpenSpace, should you just start it with the default profile? Yes. You can start it with any profile, but just go ahead for the default for now. And so I actually believe that there is even a link to this in the OpenSpace build, but it wasn't working or something. So I'm just putting it here to type it in. This is how you're gonna get to it. As you heard Alex mention, you could load this on an iPad. If you were to do that, you would not be typing localhost anymore, but you'd be typing the IP address of the computer that you're connecting to. So even though we may have a link to this inside the program, it's still good to know how to get to this and what it means when it says localhost versus the IP address, so that if you are trying to use it remotely or with an iPad or something like that, that you understand what's happening. So in this case, since you have OpenSpace running on your computer, the local host is representing your computer. So when you visit that web page in the browser, this is what you should wind up with. So this is basically just the blank version of the page. I'm going to talk about some of the parts here, and then hopefully everyone is at this page. So, you know, starting just from the left, you know, first we have the file settings, etc., the menu, right? And we'll talk some more about some of the page settings and file later. Then we have our layout section where, as you saw on the agenda, I have a section talking about the grids and the stage and the layout. That's when we're talking about that. We have the button type, so these are the buttons that you can make. So this is where you choose what type of button you want to create and press that to create a button onto the page. Down in the, you know, middle-ish, left-ish on the bottom, you have these control panels. And that's so when you are using the button page, like on the iPad or either in the browser or something, it gives you control over some things in OpenSpace, like being able to move around the camera or something. Then you have the page area, which is this like lighter blue box. Later when I talk about the stage, we'll go into this more in depth, but basically this is where you put your buttons for them to show up. And you have zoom controls, so you can zoom that in or out to make that page area bigger or smaller for you to drag the buttons around. And then finally on the bottom right, we have this mode switch, which is where in the agenda I had a thing about show mode versus edit mode, and this is how we switch that. So if there's anyone who did not get to this page, raise your hand and I won't continue yet.
I'm getting there.
Okay, great. So I will just go see what we got there.
Is there an extra laptop?
Yes. Did we use all of the laptops? Otherwise, you might have to share with someone or see if there's more in the other room. Oh, we have one here. Perfect. It's not his, that's mine. Anyway. So yes, there's one right here being unused. You could either sit there or take it. It's up to you. So the ShowComposer, hopefully you've realized it's a new feature for us. So if you're running an older version of OpenSpace, you will not be able to visit the web page. It's only in version 21 or older, or newer. Okay. So if everyone is there, yeah, go ahead.
Quick tip, because I had to shrink the size of my browser because I couldn't see all the buttons. So I was doing Control minus to zoom out the ones a little more.
Yes, basically, depending on the resolution of your monitor or this other Windows zoom setting that can be in your display settings, right? The web page may be like enlarged on your screen or shrunken, depending on how you have your like computer resolution set up. So you can use this control plus and minus in the web browser to like make it larger and smaller. But that's just like on any web page. Like if you were just New York Times and you were trying to read, you could make them larger, smaller, same. So ideally now we're going to have everybody make a Mars page with a button that says fly to Mars. And so first button and page I put here, there's two parts to this. One part is to make a button that flies to Mars. And what are we going to do? But we're going to click fly to, and it's going to pop up a little menu. Let me pull that up. Now I did mention that you have to have OpenSpace running for this to work. So if you go to the page and it doesn't show up, probably you didn't have OpenSpace running. So, also, even though it showed up, you do actually have to like, you have to see something on the OpenSpace screen before it will work. Okay, so our goal is to get a button that says fly to Mars. So what are we gonna do? But we're gonna go here to our fly to, and we're gonna click it. It's gonna pop up this window for target, and we're gonna search the scene for Mars and hit create. And it made us a button. But we now have to move the button onto our page where we want it to be. So I clicked on the button and I dragged it over into page 1. So now I have a button that flies me to Mars, but I want to customize the page as well, like I said, first button and page, and I'm gonna turn this into the Mars page. So I'm gonna go here to page and say edit page, and I'm gonna say page name, Mars page, and since Mars is orange, I'm gonna make the page orange. And now I have my Mars page with a button that will fly me to Mars, where I could later add more Mars buttons if I desire. So I want to give everyone a second to make this button and page and see, hopefully it was as easy for you as it was for me when showing it. Did anyone have an issue not making this button? Okay, fantastic. So, I mean, in the most simple way, we have made our first ShowComposer show, and I will just, in case you were wondering, yes, pressing that button does fly us to Mars. Okay. So, very, very simple. Just make a page with a button that flies to Mars. Now, I want to show about the show mode versus the editing mode, because I said, oh, I've made my first page. I'm ready to give this to someone. They can do a show. All the show does is fly to Mars. You can only do one thing, right? But you don't even want to give this to someone because we are in edit mode, right? So this is this is the mode for building a show, when really what we want is the mode for presenting a show. So when I click down here, I'm now in this mode for presenting the show, and you see my page here is just the page that I made, my Mars page with my button and those control panels that I was talking about. One thing you might notice is that page, the background, is fixed. So one of the things about the ShowComposer, the website is not fixed. You see I have these panels and the numbers, and they're attached to the bottom, and they move with the bottom as I move the bottom. But the page itself is fixed. And this is something that we had like set up on purpose, where like if you're making pages to work on your iPad, you're making them that size, so that way you know it's the right size for that screen, or the tablet or the laptop or the screen that you use. And so what you can do is under page, and in the page settings, right, you have the name, but here under the page presets, you have the width and the height. So if I did want this page to be larger, I could just type 800 there instead of 500. And now when I switch to that play mode, the page is larger. So the page itself has a fixed size, even though the browser window is resizable. And it's like it's a weird thing at first, and then once you get used to it, then you'll understand it. So how did I get to the page size? So this was under page, and then you have the width and the height. So down in the bottom corner, you have this little button that says Present Show. And if you click it, boom. Awesome. Okay, So, we basically have like, we've got our page, we've got our show, but obviously, you know, one button that flies to Mars is not a show. We could have just done that with our airplane, right, that we have in our normal menus. So, okay, yeah, I guess before I go on, does anyone have any question about making that button and switching into the show mode? Okay. So now we're just going to talk about, before we go on and make more buttons, we're going to talk about kind of like tweaking this button out and changing this button. So we just made the fly to Mars. I just had you pick Mars and just like change it, right? But when you want to like customize your button, you can like click the little dot and hit edit, and you get this like button editing menu, and there is like different things you can do. So like in a second I'll talk about the different types of buttons, and so for different types there are specific fields that for that type. Like the fly to is there's the flight duration, but if you are just like setting a number, there's not a flight duration. So for different things there's different component specific fields. So for the fly to button there's these type of fields, and for the toggle button there's this type of field, and for the Boolean button there's this type of field. But then all of the buttons have these other fields, which are the component name, the background color, the background image, right? The GUI description. And so if we look at our Fly to Mars button here, basically like the target, that's part of the specifics of a flight button, right? Because if, you know, set time doesn't have a target, that's a flight specific button. Flight duration, that's a fly to specific thing. And then, you know, some of them have extra options, like this set coordinate and altitude. So this will like fly to it at a specific altitude instead of using our default flying.
Is duration just in seconds?
Yes, the question was, is duration just in seconds? So yes. And then, but then something like the component name, like get me there, right? And then it changed the name of the button. And so this is like a let you override, right? Let you customize it. And then there's this funny thing that says lock name. And that, like, what does that even mean? Lock name, like I just type in what I want. Why would I lock the name? But that's actually the guy who's making it realized that, like, well, maybe you customize the name, but now you change it from Mars to Mercury, and then the component was updating itself to say fly to Mercury. And it was like, oh, well, on a fly to button, that makes sense that it should update itself, but sometimes you want to be able to lock the name and just, no matter what target I choose, it just says get me there. So that you have that ability to override it. Then, of course, you could like change the color of the button. So then, boom, now I have this button that's like teal or whatever color that is. And then, but even more powerful than changing the color is to put an image. So I could either like paste in a URL of an image from the internet, but I prefer to just like pick the images from my computer. And what we have done here is we made this image gallery thing. So you might notice that it didn't give me a file browser on my computer. I actually do this to upload no image and pick the file on my computer. Hopefully we've got some good images here. Okay, we'll just use this ISS image. And then I say add image and hit save, and now I have this nice image. But the reason that we had that intermediate step of like that image gallery was this idea that like you might have images that you're gonna like reuse across different presentations and like different buttons and like maybe a picture of Mars or a picture of the Earth that you're gonna use all the time. So like if you have uploaded an image once into the ShowComposer thing, it's then like available for you in your image library. So like this thing will build a little internal image library for you, so so that you can like reuse and share those images between the buttons and stuff. And then finally, the final piece there is this like description, right? Which is, this button will fly you to Mars in 4 seconds. Ignore the picture. And that is for like this little tooltip here. Do that maybe. There you go. This button will fly you to Mars in 4 seconds. Ignore the picture. There's a little bug there. Sadly, you actually have to like click it to get it to come up, which is not very. You obviously want to know what it does before you click it. So that's something to be fixed in a future version.
And I assume you can't remove the shading behind that text or edit the text color?
Correct. We cannot edit the text color in the whole thing. We actually added the shading because basically once we added the pictures and stuff, then you couldn't like see your text anymore or whatever. But right now we do not have like a text color thing, so all the text in the whole thing is white. And while you can change the background color of the page in particular and of the buttons, you cannot change the color of the whole thing right now, the whole page, like the whole show builder itself. So what I mean there is like anything outside of this orange box. Okay, so I guess maybe you may or may not have had a picture of Mars on your laptop, but was everyone able to edit their button and or pick a picture of something, hopefully make a picture, hopefully you tried to do the picture part. And so, you know, you really don't have to, you edit them, you can just, that fly to Mars worked right away, and it's up to you how much you want to edit them and change the names and change the pictures and etc. Okay, so now on to the component types, and this is that that section that's in the left here. And so there's like a couple different things about the components to talk about, but the first part is like this static components versus preset components. And normally you have static versus dynamic, so I don't know why we used static versus preset. But here, what you can think about is the static components are things for you to put on the page for the presenter. They're not actually things that interact with OpenSpace. So if I put here Mars page, this is the title, and then rich text, use this page to take the audience to Mars and then turn on some of the layers to show them, etc., right? So now I have like made a little bit of text to give to the presenter. So it's like static, it's not doing anything, right? But this may still be valuable, like you can even put images out there, right? Like, I mean, it'd be a bad example to put an image that's the same image as I used for the button, but like, here's an image of Mars, right? And so you could like, you may have an image out there that's a chart that you want the presenter to talk about, but it's not like showing up. So the static components are just on this page. They have nothing to do with the dome and interacting with OpenSpace, but they're still really valuable to make for your presenters. So you have like text, which is like bigger paragraphs. You have titles, you have images and video. That's all you have for the static. I think that's everything. So then I'll just actually like move this out of the way here. In addition to the static components, then we have our multi-component. I mean, our like dynamic components are actually components that do stuff. And so here we have tried to like break them out for you into the different types, explaining like what they do. So we use the fly to, that is flying you to somewhere. we could use the fade, right? That's if I just search like Earth Trail and hit create. So the fade, that's to fade things, right? So if we look at the Earth Trail there in blue, and I hit Earth Trail toggle, well, okay, maybe that wasn't the Earth Trail. Now I'm on Mercury, okay. So that, Earth Trail, now we see there's the Earth Trail, right? And I'll even just do these side by side so you can see it. So it's fading in and out the Earth Trail because we picked the fade one. Now, as I mentioned, the different components have different types of like things to edit. So in the flight button, the thing to edit was like, where are you flying to, right? And how long are you going to take to fly there? But for the fade thing, it's not where are you flying to, it's what thing to fade, how long, but also, do you want it to be a toggle, do you want it to be an on, or do you want it to be a off? So you could literally just make a fade out button, right? And it's not a toggle. It doesn't matter how many times you press it, it's never going to turn the Earth Trail on. This is like one of the things that you want for fading. Like sometimes you want a toggle where it's going back and forth. Other times you want one specific button that says Earth Trail off and another specific button that says Earth Trail on. Because if it's toggle, you need to know if it was on or off in the first place, right? And so there's like a bit to know there, right? And so in this case, the toggling, it's actually using this bar to denote for you if it's toggled on or off. So this is actually even giving you that extra piece of feedback of the state of it. So that's nice. But you still may want to make it even more simpler for your people, right? And just Earth Trail on, Earth Trail off. So now we could look at a time one, right? So a time one, obviously not going to have where am I flying to in the time one, right? It has what time do you want to go to. But you'll notice it still does have a duration. It has interpolate, it has fade screen, right? So basically, like if you don't interpolate and you don't fade the screen, like I'll just change the date and make that time button, right? Then it just like instantly sets the time. But if I make a time button and I interpolate and fade the screen, or fade scene, create, now this one is going to like fade out, change the time and fade back in, right? Maybe you don't want this like jump of the solar system when you're changing time. Maybe you want it to be this one. But it was like, oh God, that like took way too long though, right? So you can just edit and change the fade duration to 0.8 or something, you know? And now when I go that, it goes really quick. So the different component types are going to have different things that they want and need, right? The script is where you could like type in any custom code. So if you need a button that is like a type that, or if you need a button to do something that's not one of the types that we have available, but you know the custom code that you want this button to do, you can just like paste in your code there and this one will execute it. The playing the action is like from if you want to make buttons out of our existing pre-made buttons, right? So hopefully you've seen or known that OpenSpace has its own buttons already built in, and we call them actions, and they're doing different things, and some of them are things that are already made that you might make for your profile and are doing custom things, and then you've already made that as an action, so you want to just make a button on this page that then triggers that action. Technically, you could like copy the code out of that button and paste it into a script button in here, but we just made this play action as a way to like save you from having to do that. So that's what the action one is about, just kind of reusing the buttons that are there. Playback is for the session recording. Then you'll notice these three: number, Boolean, and trigger. So these are for like making buttons to change things, properties. So like if I wanted to change the width of the Earth trail, I would actually, oh yeah, there we go. Wait, maybe I have to search it again. So if I search like the trail here, so now I'm getting Mercury trail, line width, Venus trail, line width. Sometimes there's so many of these things that it can be hard to find. Oh, wait, let me, oh, there, okay, Earth trail, there we go, line width. I was just, I had to delete my previous search. So basically those properties I was saying you can change, like maybe you want to make a button that is letting you change that here. So now I could like have a slider for that Earth trail line width. Let me actually edit it and change the range. So now hopefully you can see the Earth trail getting thicker and thinner. And so you can make buttons for these three types of properties. We had number, which lets you make a slider, Boolean, which is the checkbox, and trigger, which is like just press. That's what a button already is, but there's some weird, rare properties that are this thing called the trigger property, and they're so special that we had to put a button for them. But this number one is really powerful, right? So maybe instead of the line width, I wanted the fade amount. So Earth trail line length. And now I'll use this one to adjust the length, right? Or actually, what I probably wanted was like this amount. There we go. So each one of the different types of buttons is for different types of things. They're all interacting with OpenSpace and doing different stuff for you inside of the software, but each one has its own specific thing. And then the script one is the generic. Literally every other button could be done with the script, but we don't expect you to want to write all those scripts. Okay. Is there any questions about the different button types? We got one over here.
Yeah, so when you're making the line amount,
Yes.
something that's produced even the older, even the data interface, right? When you bring it to zero, you get a full circle.
Yeah, so I guess maybe I would just like pause that question and rather to not have to explain how the line fading works during the ShowComposer workshop, but I will, like we can put that in the bike rack and come back to it, because we did change that in version 19 we changed the way that you control the amount of fading of the line of a trail, and well, it did make it simpler. It was already confusing before, and it's still confusing. The version we have now is much better than the version we had before, so don't get me wrong. They were both confusing. At least this one is confusing but does what you want, whereas the other one was confusing but it was hard to make it do what you want. So, but yes, in particular, the line length and then the line fade amount is a weird thing in particular to edit. Shoot.
Can I ask the most stupid question?
We'll find out.
You have this composer thing that you're working with.
Yes.
I'm just creating this thing. How am I controlling OpenSpace with this composer thing? What am I doing? Am I doing it on my iPad and this is presenting on the screen?
That's up to you.
No, but I don't know.
Right. So
What's the possibility?
So the question is, how do we intend for you to use this?
Yes.
Right. So here you can see I have OpenSpace here on the right and left, but obviously this is not the typical example use case. So one example use case of if I was using this in this room to give a presentation in this room to a bunch of people, instead of having my screen duplicated, like right now where you see my screen here, I would just have the OpenSpace graphics on the projector. Then I would have this button page on my laptop screen in play mode, in present mode. And I would be using this button page, right? I wouldn't be seeing OpenSpace. You would be seeing only OpenSpace. I would be seeing only the button page. and I would be using the button page to navigate and control the presentation that I was giving you.
On the same machine.
Correct. Or, as I was mentioning in the very beginning, instead of loading the button page on the same machine, instead of using localhost, you could use the IP address of the machine running OpenSpace and then run the ShowComposer on your iPad. So in the iPad, instead of typing in localhost 4680 ShowComposer, you type in the IP address of the laptop running OpenSpace, and then your iPad controls OpenSpace. Yeah.
Something I was just thinking about with the fly twos and the flight duration is currently, is there any way to have the flight duration change depending on where you're starting from? Like if I'm starting way out at the CMB.
No. The question was, is there a way in the flight duration to have the flight duration take into account your distance? And the answer is no. This one does. When you actually use the airplane button in our OpenSpace menus, it does account for the distance. So you could make your own script button that use the same code that our airplane button uses. Just a sec, I had one here and then I'll come to you.
Maybe I didn't hear, you said it already. Is this being saved automatically, or do you have to physically?
So the question was, is this being saved automatically or do you have to physically save it? What I will say is, it's a little both. I'm going to get into saving later on in the slide, but it is kind of like saving your work as you do it. There is a undo button, and there is a file save if you want to extra make sure that it saves, but it is kind of saving it as you do it. So if I did like close the web browser and then like open it again, you see all the stuff I had was still there. So it is kind of saving it, but I'm going to go in more depth about the saving later. I just had one here and then come back to you.
You might have mentioned this, I came in late, so apologies if you did, but is there a way to connect two of these, or are we just talking about building an action?
You said, is there a way to connect two of them? So maybe what you mean is this multi button here. See the first one that says multi? I didn't want to go this in the ShowComposer basics, just because the multi one is more complicated. But yes, you can have multiple things happen with one button. You see, that's the multi component, and you can set a delay between them and stuff. But it's a little more tricky and complicated, so I just thought I might leave the multi component out of the basics.
But the basic is that it trickles from the first to the second to however many.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay. So, great. So we got two more things to cover here, which is the grids and then the saving. Oh, we had a question first.
Well, that was my question.
Oh, yay. Same question. Amazing. Perfect. Okay. So now I'm going to cover the layout and the grids real quick. So basically, if you might look at my page right now, it looks kind of ugly. And aside from the colors, it's also just like stuff is everywhere, right? So we have a couple things for you for that. One of them is like, it does kind of like snap to the grid, as you can see, like these dots. But sometimes even that is not good enough. And you want it to be like aligned and to have the buttons the same size and stuff and different things. So we have these layout components here. So I'm going to make a grid here. And now I can drag the buttons into the grid. And they snap and they fit in and they like align themselves and they're all nice. And then they're all lined up and I can move around the grid with me, you know? And if I wanted, I could have like edited the grid and had it be like a 3x2 grid. Oops, now some of the buttons got kicked out and I got to bring them back in when you edit it. Generally, you edit it before you put them in. But you see now, I like, boom, now I've got like a much tighter looking page than I did before, right? And so, like, you can make the grid bigger and smaller, and it will make the buttons bigger and smaller. And so the grids is like really powerful. The other part that I wanted to talk about, and I have joined them together even though they're not really joined, is this grids and the stage. You might notice that I was bringing these buttons in and out to like move them around and use them. Like, we have this area that's called the stage. That's the blue background that's living outside of my page. That's the orange background. And so the stage is where I could like leave buttons. It's like a workspace. When I go to present mode, you might see all those buttons that are there on the stage are not there, right? Because they're just there in my workspace template. Like, think of it like if I was like creating a book, and I have like all my stuff around me, and I'm like laying out the piece of paper. The stage is your piece of paper, and I'm putting stuff onto the page, but I have all the stuff on my desk around me, you know? So the stage is like your desk around you, and it not just lets you like have things available. Also, if I were to like add a new page, now I'm gonna do like my moon page and make a new page, I am like, and on my new page I have things I want, but I'm like, oh, this button from page 1, I want that to go onto page 2. I could like drag it out onto the stage, switch over to page 2, and then drag it onto page 2. So the stage lets you like have stuff around that you're gonna use later or whatever, or like, it's, you know, it's outside of the pages, the stage. Unfortunately, it rhymes. That was like, I should have chosen a different name or something. But, so the like stage is really like powerful. And the thing is, that's where these zoom things come into play. So you can zoom in and out and you have all this area, when in reality, like, you know, the page area is what people see when they're presenting, right? But you can have more stage area to have different things laid out and stuff like that. Okay, so does anyone have questions about the stage or the grid?
I have a question, sir. If you have a bunch of pages from 1 to 10, and I don't remember which one is marked, there is a way that instead of numbers, is that names or something?
Yeah, so this was actually like something that, Alex had like requested, you know. Like, you can actually make buttons that will go to different pages. So I could be like, you know, add page, oops. So I have like 4 pages, and on the 3rd page, you know, maybe I'm like, this button now, this one is actually gonna bring me back to page 1. So we don't have like a drop down list of the page names, which maybe we could, like in here, it could list out the names or something. But we do have this like page button component type that will navigate you from one page to another. That's this one.
You could almost make like an index.
Yeah. You could make one page that just has all the pages listed out with their name. You have table of contents, index, or you could make that on every page. So it's up to you, because you could just copy, right? So you could make your whole index and then just copy it and then put it, so every page has a go to Mars page, you know? Okay, any more questions about the stage and the grids, the layout? Okay, so the final part I want to cover is the saving. So this is really important, also a little weird, but works well. And any time that you are making a website, a program that is actually a website, saving comes into different plays. And what does that mean, right? When you are using Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel and you're saving that document, or you're using Photoshop or something, you know, you have a document and a file and you're saving the changes to that file. But when you're using like a web page, it doesn't work that way, right? Like when I'm using Google Docs and I have my document, what does it mean to save it, and like where are these things? And so we have a bit of that weird scenario here within the OpenSpace and the ShowComposer. So I definitely wanted to cover the saving and go over that and how it works. So the good news is it does work really well. And so basically, you know, we have like save and open, and then we have import, export and import. And I want to cover both of those as separate things, which is like also weird because like in Microsoft Word or Microsoft Excel, you don't have import and export. You just have like the file, and you just email your friend the file or something, right? But on a web thing, they're saved in the web's local cache, or there's all sorts of different stuff when it comes to web. So what does it mean for us in the ShowComposer when you want to save? So the first question was, or we had a question already about that, is it saving? Does it save automatically? And the good news was it does have a level of automatic saving, right? So if I just close the browser and I reopen it, it's saved. But, you know, that uses like the cookie and the browser stuff, and, you know, maybe you want to actually make sure that it's saved, so you're going to hit File, Save, and then project has been saved. Now, I should have maybe like given the project a name, right? So I went here to settings and presentation settings and the show name, and I'm gonna call it Micah Demo Show and hit update show. So now it has a name. And basically, like now, you know, I said it's saved. I'm gonna make a new show, right? And I'm gonna call this like second demo, whatever, create show with the page that flies, with the button that flies you to Mercury, right? And I'm gonna save that. Okay, so now I like saved my previous show and I created a new show, but now I want to open up the previous one that I had saved. So I can go to File and Open, and now you're gonna see these list of shows. So if I go to Micah Demo Show and hit Open Show, now it opens that one. So the file, the save, the open here is all within our program. It's not part of this Windows like saving dialog, because the presentation isn't actually like a file. It's a collection of stuff. So I could make any number of these ones that I want, and actually notice if I like open the second project, the second demo, and then I close the website and come back, I'm like still have that one open. So it's like auto saving and keeping open the last thing you worked on, but you could open and switch over to any of these shows. So this is how you like, oh, today I'm giving the Mars show, let me open that one. Tomorrow I'm giving the Venus show, let me open that one. So you have all the ones that you've made available on your computer.
Mine didn't seem to auto-save.
Oh.
When I went to open, nothing was there, and then I hit save, and then I went to open, and it was there.
Okay, so what she said was it didn't auto-save. She had to do save. So I think that what happens is that it auto-saves everything that you're doing, but you do have to save it once to make it appear in that list. So you have to save it at least once to save it into that list, and then it will auto-save from there on, like as you work. It saves like the current state in the local temporary cache. Okay, so now let's say I wanted to take this show though and give it to Adam, right? Give it to him. Now I need to export the show, because the saving it is saving it within our ShowComposer system and our local files, right? But I want to share this, so I'm going to go to File and I'm going to go to Export. And now you'll see that it just gave me a download in Chrome called Micah Demo Show blah 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 blah. That's just in case people have lots of things named project. We add like a number to it, and that's a zip file. And now I could send this zip file to someone else. And let's say I sent this file to someone else. Basically, Now, if I sent this to you and then you wanted to import it, you would go File, Import. And you would pick my demo show. And then when you hit Open, you're going to get this interesting menu. And I wanted to show it to show this menu. So when you import a show, you could either import one particular page from the show, or you can import the whole show. And you could choose to import those pages into your existing presentation, or you could make a new one, which is the most like simple and straightforward way to think about it is to select all the pages and import those pages into a new show, or literally just press import full show, right? So unfortunately, I actually have to switch to the second one. Like, it's a little weird for me to import the one that I already have. But now I did import into a new show, and now you see basically I have all those buttons available to me. I was blank, and now I have the exact same buttons and everything, even including the images. Now on this case, I uploaded the images. I'm on the same computer, so I did already technically have the images, but one of the reasons that we have this export and then the download of the zip file and stuff is like your presentation can contain uploads, and then if you're sharing that to somebody in a different planetarium and you had all these beautiful picture buttons, you want them to be able to have the beautiful picture buttons too, and not say, oh yeah, you have to go to Wikipedia and save them all and then edit the buttons and then choose them yourself. No, when you export the show to send to someone, it should have all of the pictures there with it. So we had to make this like export and import to make sure that all of the images and everything media would come along with the show. And it does make it a little weird and different when it comes to the save and load versus import and export.
Is there just out of curiosity, a browser preference? I noticed when I reopen my show, one of my text boxes just keeps jumping around no matter what it wants.
I don't know. I've never tried it in any browser other than Chrome. So I don't know. I guess the preference is Chrome in a way, because that's the only one I've ever tried it in. But, you know, I don't know.
For the pages, say if you wanted to, you accidentally put Mercury on page 8, how do you get Mercury to page 1? So in all of the patterns.
Is like, can you reorder the pages? Is that the question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you can reorder the pages. You might not be able to reorder the pages, actually. You might just have to move the stuff yourself. Yeah, I don't think you can reorder the pages, unfortunately. Okay. Any other questions?
You can have multiple, or can you open multiple shows in different profiles, or is it profile?
Great question. So are the shows tied to a profile? And the answer is no. So like you could have 12 different ShowComposer pages that you all use with the Apollo profile, depending on what. Today I'm going to do Apollo, but really focus on geology. And you have a whole set of show pages just for geology with the Apollo profile. But then another one, you're just going to focus on spacecraft. So you have a whole show page just for when you do the Apollo spacecraft one. Or maybe you have my set of buttons that I use to change trail widths and fly me to planets. And you use that one with any profile, whether you're an Apollo profile or default profile or solar profile or your own custom profile. So basically the pages, even though it would seem like there is a direct one-to-one connection between the profile and the page, it's actually quite the opposite. Now, that being said, most of the time you use specific pages with specific profiles because you have that's the point of the profile, is tailoring the presentation to specific content. What we will do on these ones is, like, if you have a button that is like, you know, turn on Apollo 8 trail, but you load up the show in the default profile, that button will get disabled. So the show checks OpenSpace to see which things are available, and if you made buttons for things that aren't available, it disables them. So that's nice. Question?
Where is that presentation that you're doing the an OpenSpace box?
This one right here?
Yeah, where is that?
It's in my Google Slides.
Where is that?
Like, are you asking, will you be able to get this presentation?
Yeah, or is it?
I can share this link. Yeah, I'll share it later. We may share them all. I'm not sure, but if not, I'll make sure to share this one. Okay.
All right, on the editor, it shows images and video. Is that only for the slides, or can they be like in the screen space?
Correct. So the static components that I was talking about, so the static components are only for the web page. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I must have closed it. Get me out of here. I can't get out of here, sorry. Get out of here. So these ones right here, the static ones. Yeah, these are only, so like this image that I picked of Mars here, like this is only for the presenter, you know. Basically, if you, like, you might notice this, none of these buttons have anything to do with like adding or removing or assets or anything like that. So you would, like, if you had a screen space slide, you would still do that how you always would, but you could use the ShowComposer to have a button to turn the slide on and off. But the ShowComposer is not creating new slides for you. Yeah, we don't do any like add scene graph node stuff here or add screen space renderable. That being said, one of my requested features for the future was being able to send this to the dome. But it did not make it there. Done? All right. Well, unless there's even if there is more questions, you can ask me later or put them on the bike rack, because we are now complete. So thank you all very much. Hopefully, it seemed like everyone was able to get there. So fantastic.